Willis O'Brien as a filmmaker should be considered the patriarch of American monster movies and special effects blockbusters. His time in Hollywood was a tumultuous one, unable to get many projects off the ground, and he suffered from a lot of personal tragedy in his own life. His first son, William, was blind due to the tuberculosis he got from his mother, Hazel, and she would eventually shoot him and his younger brother, Willis Jr., and attempt to take her own life, but would fail, actually saving her own in a odd, cruel fate of irony, but she would also die to cancer a little bit down the line. And aside from other projects that didn't get off the ground, Brian got certain projects taken away from him, Frankenstein vs. King Kong being one of the more famous examples. It's easy to say that O'Brien deserved a lot better than what he got in life, but as today marks his 134th birthday, I wanted to highlight 10 works of his and their importance to cinema. Beast from Hollow Mountains as a film is one that O'Brien did only storyboards for, but it's not because of the effects I'm putting it on this list. It's more to do with the type of science fiction it pioneered. Dinosaurs in the Wild West is a type of sci-fi that's not often very common. The only property that took this concept was Turok, and that would be before this film, and after it would be Valley of Gwangi. Gwangi itself was an idea that had been started by O'Brien, but was made realized by his apprentice Ray Harryhausen, who's someone who will appear a lot on this list as well. And due to how limited this subgenre is, but how moderately executed it is, I think it helped pioneer a style that has been taken to its nth degree with projects like Dinosaurs in the Wild West, and we gotta thank O'Brien for that one. Son of Kong is a rush sequel to a famous monster film that seems to not capture the spirit of the original. Despite it having old actors come back, it is also the first to introduce the son of a titular monster character. This film's more lighthearted tone and rush nature echo that of Godzilla Raids Again, and like Son of Godzilla, it introduces the son of the main monster. I also want to put it on this list because of how endearing it is that his son Will was able to come onto the set and play with some of the models. Even though he was blind, I think it's nice to know that while he was making a film about the son of King Kong, he was able to spend some great times with his own son, despite his tragic end. Number 8 is one of O'Brien's earlier stop-motion pieces, and that is Ghost of Slumber Mountain. Its main draw comes from a battle between a Tyrannosaurus Rex and Triceratops. Despite like many O'Brien productions being extremely tumultuous and the runtime being insanely shortened, this dynamic paleontological showdown has its cinematic roots here and has persisted throughout cinema. Whether it's 1 million years BC, Valley of Gwangi, Prehistoric Beasts, Rite of Spring, and the short film Wildlife on Mars by the film student ML Theorem, they may each have a different theropodid herbivore, but dino combat can always trace its roots to this little piece right here. 10,000 BC, not to be confused with the terrible Roland Emmerich version, is one of O'Brien's early works, but what makes it special is one of several he did for Edison Studios' Conquest Pictures. Yeah, Willis O'Brien got the attention of Thomas Edison. Great inventor, businessman, lightbulb guy, Thomas Edison. The plot is basically your generic caveman, dinosaur, Flintstone-esque story, and the stop motion is pretty primitive. It is one of O'Brien's really early works, even earlier than Ghost of Slumber Mountain. But it's endearing in that really sort of you're learning to hone your craft kind of way. And that's why I put it above some of these other ones. The Giant Behemoth is a loose remake of The Beast in 20,000 Fathoms, a film that catapulted Ray Harryhausen into fame as a stop-motion practitioner. In a way, the master is copying the Apprentice here, and in a way I feel the Apprentice did it better. However, O'Brien's film is still good in its own right. However, I think the effects are a little bit worse due to O'Brien being a little bit older at the time. But this really doesn't hamper the film in any way, as the Behemoth is still a really interesting puppet in its own right. And when you look at it and include Gorgo, another monster movie that shared a lot of the same staff that worked on the other two, it creates an interesting trifecta, and in a way, tying it to Godzilla, you see the Giant Behemoth and Gorgo, which were copying The Beast in 20,000 Fathoms, and then Gorgo, who seemed to be copying a lot from Godzilla, specifically in appearance. So in a way, it's interesting to see an interesting idea taken up by a Japanese company, an American remake, and then a British film that takes a lot from all of them. The Black Scorpion is a film that sees O'Brien take his hand at insect stop motion. Unlike the Deadly Mantis, Them, and Tarantula, this is probably the best looking insect monster movie from around that time due to O'Brien's stop motion work. The final stadium battle is one of the best action conclusions in an O'Brien film, and along with the worm-like creature, this is probably as close to we'll get to the original Lost Spider Pit scene from the original King Kong. And despite having no relation, the scorpion and the setup to this film reminds me a lot of something out of Resident Evil. However, I do know there's a scorpion BOW in Resident Evil 0, but I doubt the creators of Resident Evil thought of the Black Scorpion when making it. Mighty Joe Young, in a lot of ways, is the third King Kong film. One in the word, unlike Sonic, and its lighthearted tone isn't made to ham up the comedy to make it more distinguished from the original film like King Kong and Sonic Kong, and because of this, it's able to stand on its own a lot better. And this is actually also where Ray started apprenticing under O'Brien, because the two worked on this film together. This is considered O'Brien's first outing as a stop-motion animator. The Dinosaur and the Missing Link is in many ways a proto-King Kong, having an ape creature fight a dinosaur. Another echo of King Kong is the fact that there is a man in the short film that uses the ape as spectacle. After the dinosaur kills it, he takes responsibility as other cavemen swim around wondering what happened. The stop motion is extremely primitive, and it's definitely showing that this is O'Brien's first hand at it. But that just makes the charm all the more better, and it really shows how much love O'Brien had for dinosaurs, as the first stop motion film he ever did was that of a dinosaur. The first adaptation of The Lost World was the biggest project of O'Brien's early career. Using the most complex stop motion models made to date, O'Brien was able to bring to life the creatures of the South American plateau, and it is even alleged that the author of the original book, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, showed it to his friends, stating that his original story was based on fact, and O'Brien's effects were real dinosaurs. Out of all O'Brien's work, this is by far my favorite piece. I always loved dinosaurs, and The Lost World is a staple of classic sci-fi. And seeing a brontosaurus and not a typical theropod being one of the earliest examples of a dinosaur rampaging through a city is really interesting to think about, when in modern days it's always meat eaters who are seen thrashing through cities, when back in the day it was just a big humble plant eater doing so. And actually, just to plug in another one of my videos in the future, I will be doing a full commentary of The Lost World. The film is in public domain, so I will be able to show the entirety of it on my channel, and I will be talking through it as well as giving some commentary about the book. So stay tuned for that. Finally, there is O'Brien's magnum opus, King Kong. Is it the first film with a giant monster? Well, no. The Dragon from Dai Nibelung from 1924 would hold that honor. Is it the first American giant monster? No. That award would go to Cthulhu from the Call of Cthulhu in 1926. But it was the most popular and captivating film that had such a creature in it. Roger Ebert, despite his scathing criticism of it, called it the father of Jurassic Park and Alien, along with countless other stories in which heroes are terrified by skillful effects. He even gave the film 4 stars, a rarity for a creature feature reviewed by the man. And his statement about King Kong being a pioneer film is true. The effects are extremely lifelike for their time, and they still hold up today, even though we know all the techniques behind them. And like Doom, it wasn't the first film with a giant monster, just like how Doom wasn't the first first-person shooter, but it spawned decades of media following its legacy. For Doom, Halo, Blood, Quake, and for King Kong, The Beast, Godzilla, and many other giant monster movies. So, those are just a few of O'Brien's films. Any others I didn't mention were either extremely hard to come by and with no footage, or they were not really creature features or monster stuff. It's really interesting looking into O'Brien's life, as you really see the amount of passion he had, and just the fact that he wasn't always able to get projects off the ground like many artists now today. And I think it really shows that we can continue to keep pushing for what we want to do, regardless of what kind of troubles are coming our way, our personal tragedies, our traumas. I think that really shows in O'Brien, as he was able to create a lot of fantastic works, and he inspired a lot of people, Ray Harryhausen in particular, who would go on to make many more special effects beauties, as it were. So happy birthday to you, Willis O'Brien. We love your films, and thank you for bringing some of our favorite characters to life.